Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands and welcome to the last episode of this series that I've been doing, looking at the decades of horror and for every decade picking out the best movie of that year. For this last episode we're going to be looking at the best that modern horror has to offer as we go through the 2010's. And I've got to say, this was a decade that I was a little bit cynical and sceptical as to how good the choices would be from this time. But there is some really good stuff. I was impressed. When you look at it on paper, there's some really, really good horror movies that came out in this time. So, for one last time, let's have a look through another decade as we go through the 2010's. Okay, starting in 2010, and you've got some good contenders in this year. You've got a Serbian film. I like it for what it is. It does deal with some of the most horrifying subject matter in a movie, but as a film, I think it's a good film. It's put together well, it looks good, it's acted really well. If you can get through some of the awful things that go on in that movie, there is some filmmaking merit to it. Black Swan, the beautifully put together Darren Aronofsky horror movie, very kind of trippy and nightmarish in places, and all centered around a ballet performance. It somewhat reminded me of Dario Argento, which I appreciated. The Last Exorcism is one that I enjoyed, and one of the few decent exorcism / possession movies out there. Troll Hunter, a very fun and novel kind of found footage movie with this group of people in Norway following this guy who hunts these giant troll monsters. Really entertaining stuff. And then Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is a really fun horror comedy with these clueless hillbillies out in the woods, and there's a group of cheerleaders and they're all having these horrible accidents and dying one by one. But the cheerleaders think the hillbillies are killing them off, and the hillbillies think the cheerleaders are killing them off. So yeah, a bit of a funny misunderstanding there. But the film that I'm going to go for 2010 is Insidious, which is a film that really scares me actually. I do find this to be a very frightening film. This is the kid that's like in a coma or something, and his body acts as like a conduit between the real world and then like the spirit world, and all these dark entities start to haunt the kid and therefore the house, like trying to get to the world of the living. And I really like the idea that it's not the house that's haunted, it's kind of the kid's body. So even if you move house, which they do in the film, all the ghostly stuff still follows you. That was a really scary concept. And the music and the sound design in this film is terrifying. It like really assaults your senses and gets under your skin. Every time I hear that shrill, Insidious title music, it gives me goosebumps. So yeah, this movie is up there with one of the scariest films that I've seen. But at the same time, I find it very entertaining and fun to watch. But yeah, this is a really frightening film. So Insidious is my pick for 2010. On to 2011, and just a couple of candidates here for me. You've got The Awakening, which is a really good British ghost story. I know in the last decade I talked about the others coming along and being like a really good gothic British ghost story, and you've got another one here with this woman investigating some spooky goings on in an orphanage. But this is a really underrated one, a very good slow burn ghost story that I highly recommend. And The Woman, which is just a fantastic film of this family. They find a feral woman in the wilderness, take her back to the farm and kind of keep her there as a pet. It's very weird. But the dad in this is one of the biggest piece of crap characters you will ever see in a film. It's an amazing performance, and I really, really recommend checking out The Woman. It's a great movie. But the movie that I'm going to go for 2011 is You're Next, which is just an insane home invasion movie. This quite large family come together at this big house to have a family reunion, and whilst dinner's taking place, they just suddenly get home invaded by these mask-wearing creepy people that come at them with bow and arrows and all kind of things. It's really high octane. You don't know who's going to get picked off next. The kills come out of nowhere. It's a movie that really keeps you on the edge of your seat, and there's a bit of a twist in it later on. I was just absolutely thoroughly entertained by this one all the way through, and thought it was a great home invasion movie. So my pick for 2011 is You're Next. On to 2012, and quite a few good contenders here. You've got Cabin in the Woods, which is a great movie, but for me, one of the biggest missed opportunities in horror ever. Why they haven't done a sequel exploring that underground area where all the monsters are is beyond me. I really hope one day someone gets on that and we get a movie that takes place entirely in that underground base where all the different horror creatures are kept, because that would just be horror movie heaven. You've also got Chernobyl Diaries. That's a really good one where these people visit the city of Chernobyl, and there's these creatures that still live there. Dark Shadows, a fun Johnny Depp one, building off the old 1970s TV show. I like the Alice Cooper cameo in that one. That was funny. Maniac, absolutely fantastic remake with Elijah Wood in the title role. Really, really good movie. One of the best remakes I've seen, actually. Yeah, very good film. Prometheus, it was okay for what it was. I think it lost its way a little bit, but it was a big hit at the time and does have some impressive visual effects. Sinister, very popular horror film. Everyone I talk to seems to love this movie. It is a great movie. I enjoy it. Very creepy in places, so definitely want to give it a mention. The Woman in Black, another really good gothic British ghost story. I had the pleasure of going to see this at a premiere screening and meeting the director, so I have very fond memories of that one. And When the Lights Went Out, another British ghost story, kind of riffing off the Enfield haunting, which was a real life case here in the UK, of this teenage girl being possessed and a priest having to try and help her. It's a really good one that goes under the radar. But the one I want to go for 2012 is one of my favourite found footage movies, and it's VHS. Man, this one blew me away when I first watched it. A bunch of these guys, they break into this house, and it's just this really weird rundown house that's just full of VHS tapes. And also there's like a dead guy in the house. And they put a few of these tapes on, and it's just an anthology of very weird, scary, intense found footage stories. So there's the one with the girl on that night out who turns out to be this weird creature. The one with the cult doing something to that woman, but there's a bit of a twist. A few other ones in this one, but they're all really scary. They're all really good, and there's a bit of a creepy wraparound tale as well within the house as these guys are watching these stories unfold. Weird stuff's happening in the house as well. So yeah, if you like found footage, if you like anthologies, I highly recommend VHS, and this is going to be my pick for 2012. On to 2013, and a few good contenders here. You've got the Evil Dead remake, which I know is a popular one amongst fans. Very gory film, which is good. VHS 2, which is a great sequel. I love that one just as much as the first one. And World War Z, which I wasn't a big fan of it. It was way too big budget and CGI laden for me for a zombie film, but I know it was a big hit, so I thought I would include that one. But the film that I'm going to go for, my pick for 2013, is The Conjuring. I am a big fan of this universe. I like how scary and creepy and effective these are, and they've got a bit of like a 70s vibe to them as well. So I do really like this one. It's kind of the start of the Warrens doing their thing, and this is just one to put on if you just want a good horror film that's suitably scary, and then after this you can kind of explore the rest of the Conjuring universe. So yeah, my pick for 2013 is The Conjuring. On to 2014, quite a few good ones here. You've got Annabelle, really solid entry in the Conjuring universe. As Above, So Below, that was a great found footage movie with these people deep beneath the Parisian catacombs, and they're exploring the area, but there is creepy goings on around them. The Babadook, which is actually not a film that I liked. This one didn't do anything for me, but it does seem to be a popular one, so I wanted to mention it. Creep, which, oh my word, Creep, you've got to check this one out. This is about like a down and out filmmaker. He's got no money, and he answers an ad where you get paid $1,000 to follow someone around and just document their life. And he goes along to do it, but the guy who he meets, I won't say too much about him, but it's not what it seems. It's very scary and will stay with you for quite a while and will give you the goosebumps. So yeah, definitely check out Creep. Deliver Us from Evil, that's a good one with Eric Bana as like this streetwise cop getting involved in this case involving exorcism and demonic possession. It's a good crossover of kind of crime thriller and demonic possession horror. It Follows. Now this is another one I actually wasn't a big fan of. I thought it was a bit too slow, and I didn't like that there wasn't any kind of real threat or monster in it. Really wasn't one that I enjoyed, but it is a very popular film, so I wanted to give it a mention. And Tusk, which is just such a messed up movie, which the less said about this one the better, but it is weird and gets seriously uncomfortable and disturbing towards the end. But the movie that I'm going to go for 2013, it's more of kind of a horror comedy, but I just had so much fun when I watched it, and that is Wolf Cop, which is pretty self-explanatory. This guy is a cop in this kind of small town, and he ends up getting in some kind of accident. He gets this weird thing on his chest and starts to become a werewolf. So he's half cop, half werewolf, and the chaos and the horror and the silliness just ensues from there. But it was a very entertaining movie. I can put this on any time and have a laugh. And yeah, you should definitely check it out if you want to see something a bit more on the silly side, but really delivers in terms of the creature side of things, and also just a bit of fun with this Wolf Cop character. So my pick for 2014 is Wolf Cop. On to 2015, some more great contenders here. You've got Crimson Peak, which is a wonderful film. It's almost like a modern day Hammer horror film, but just amped up with lush cinematography, colours, set design. It's just a mesmerisingly beautiful gothic fairy tale that you really should check out. Goosebumps, a favourite of mine. I love this movie. It's so much fun. Love Jack Black as R.L. Stein, and seeing all the different Goosebumps creatures come to life. Fantastic kind of beginner's horror right there. And then The Witch, which I really liked it. I liked it for its kind of oldie-fashioned approach, and even the sort of the old English language was used in this. So yeah, I thought this one was a pretty good movie. But the film that I'm going to go for, and oh man, did this one have an impact on me, is The Visit. So in this one, these two kids, they go and stay at their grandparents' farm. They've not seen them for many, many years. They've gone to stay there for the weekend, but their grandparents, there's something not quite right about them, and their behaviour gets increasingly strange and frightening for the kids as time goes on. And there is a revelation in this movie that will just hit you and terrify you, and it's like, whoa. Okay. And yeah, it was just such a great movie. I highly recommend it. So yeah, my pick for 2015 is easily The Visit. Definitely check this one out. On to 2016 and some really, really good contenders here. You've got The Barn, which is just a fantastic kind of throwback movie. Great to watch at Halloween with these creatures killing people off in this giant barn at this Halloween party. Really enjoyed that one. The Boy, another kind of British gothic movie. There was a lot of these kind of movies in 2010, more than I give it credit for. It's a great decade for gothic, moody horror films, and The Boy was really good. The Conjuring 2, my favourite of the Conjuring universe actually, where they kind of tie into the Enfield haunting and the Warrens investigate it. Great horror film, over 2 hours long, but just an epic, sort of terrifying supernatural movie. Don't Breathe, fantastic home invasion with the teenagers breaking into that war veteran's house, but he's not quite as he seems. Lights Out, really good scary one with this brother and sister being terrorised by a supernatural entity. Terrifier, so Art the Clown, fast becoming a horror icon as time goes on. And Train to Busan, one of the best action-packed zombie films you will ever see. It's just incredible, never a dull moment, and a rather touching ending as well. So yeah, definitely check that one out. But the film that I'm going to go for 2016, and I often sing this film's praises, is The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which is just a fantastic modern horror movie and a textbook example of how to really deliver in a very simple kind of way, because not a lot goes on in this movie. It's these two morticians, a father and son team, and they get the body of this Jane Doe woman who is just horrifically injured in about every single way you can imagine, yet there's no trace of how she died. And as they experiment, as they look into what happened to her more and more, weird things start to happen around the autopsy room and things like that. It's such a good movie. You should definitely check it out. So my pick for 2016 is the highly recommended The Autopsy of Jane Doe. On to 2017. Just 3 films here for me that made it as contenders. Happy Death Day, which I really enjoyed, with the high school girl being killed by someone, but then waking up and reliving the same day over and over again. So like the Groundhog Day of horror, and she has to try and find out who did it. Mother, which is one that's a strange film. It starts out very slow burn, but then just speeds along to this insane kind of climax, and very intense performances from Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem, but one that is filled with kind of metaphors and hidden meanings, and yeah, one that you can discuss quite a bit should you wish to. And then The Ritual, which is one that really goes under the radar, but these 4 guys go out walking in the woods and start to come across some sort of strange artifacts and a few sort of mangled up animals and things to suggest that someone or something else might be out there in the woods with them. It's really good. If you can track down the ritual, give it a watch. But my pick for 2017 is Get Out, which from the first time I watched this, I was really impressed with this film. Very much kind of like a people horror, but I like how it's a little bit different and it really keeps you guessing and it's a bit twisty-turny. So this guy Chris, he's a black guy that's meeting his white girlfriend's family for the first time. I only mention the race because it ties into the story, and so of course he's kind of like nervous anyway and is a bit sort of fish out of water. But it becomes increasingly clear that this family are weird and there are other things going on. But it's such a wonderfully put together film. Really tight script, very tense, keeps you guessing, and then when sort of things are revealed, it starts to really go full throttle. And I really like this Chris character. I think he's one of my favourite characters in horror, and you can really relate to his situation of just not really being sure about what's going on. And yeah, it just has an uneasy believability to it. So yeah, I've always liked Get Out since I saw it. I think it's a great example of modern horror done right and done effectively, and this is my pick for 2017. On to 2018. This is a really strong year. Some great movies coming out in this year. You've got The Barge People, which is another British one with these like water monsters attacking people along this this riverbank. Really good, and it's got some great kind of practical water-based monsters in it, which I always appreciate. Hereditary, this was almost my pick. This is one of the best horror films I've seen in many, many years, and I almost went for it. Part of me thinks I should have gone for it. There's one other film that I enjoyed slightly more, but Hereditary is, as I say, one of the best modern horror films out there. The Meg, a great popcorn horror movie. I like my killer shark films, so yeah, I enjoy The Meg. The Nun from the Conjuring universe. This one gets a lot of hate, but I really like The Nun. I love the dark gothic setting of this, and I think it takes place in like the Romanian countryside or something. But I thought that movie was really good. Overlord, a great kind of action war horror film crossover with the scientists experimenting on those creatures. Possum, a really dark, gritty horror film of this clearly disturbed guy who is followed by this weird spider puppet everywhere. It's got some dark subtext to that one. And A Quiet Place, not a movie that I was all that hot for, but I do like the idea of the alien creatures hunting people by sound. But the movie that I'm going to go for, and I'm going for it because I love the film and I had a great time watching this, so it's kind of solidified itself as the number one spot, although Hereditary was very close. And that is Halloween 2018. And this one, I was really excited to see it. I was away at the seaside and I went to this little tiny old-fashioned cinema on Halloween to watch it and really enjoyed it. And I love what they did with it. I think this is a great slasher. Michael Myers is great in it. It recaptures some of the old feel of Halloween. I love the long shots of the camera following Michael Myers through the house, as that was amazing. John Carpenter's music in this is absolutely fantastic. I didn't like the twist with the Doctor. I think if they'd have left that out and done something else, this would almost have been a perfect modern Halloween film. But I really enjoy it. I have fond memories of it, and it's just one of my favourite Halloween films. So this one is my pick for 2018. Sorry, Hereditary. And on to 2019, the last year of this decade, the last year of this series. And some pretty cool movies coming out in 2019. You got 47 Meters Down Uncaged, which was the sequel, but I actually really like this one. Takes place in these like underwater caves, which is terrifying enough. But then there's a shark down there, and because it's been underwater for so long, it looks a bit different. It's got like white eyes. I thought it was a really good movie. Brightburn, the movie that asks the question, what if Superman would have been evil? And it explores that. The Child's Play remake, I did like this. I like what they did with it. I like that they had a bit of a modern spin, which was good. Crawl, a really good killer crocodile horror movie. And Midsummer, Ari Aster's really good cult Wicker Man type movie taking place in Sweden. Some absolutely beautiful daylight cinematography in that, which you don't get a lot in horror movies. But the movie that I want to go for 2019, one that I went to the cinema to watch again and had a great time, and that is Ready or Not, which is a really fun kind of thriller horror film with Samara Weaving. She is this bride-to-be of this guy. She goes to meet his insanely wealthy family, but they have a strange family tradition where every year they have to play some kind of game, and one of the type of games that it could be is this game of hide and seek where people are hunted and killed for real. And of course on this occasion that's what's selected, so she is plunged into this weird violent game where she has to get around the mansion, surviving the various family members that are trying to hunt her down, like Hard Target style. It's a very fun and entertaining film. If you can entertain the notion of this murderous game of hide and seek, which is a bit crazy, you can have a lot of fun with this one. And Samara Weaving is fantastic in this. It's fun to see her go from this naive, unassuming bride to this kind of Rambo-style killer woman. It's like a strong female character done right and not forced down your throat. So yeah, if you want to see a fun, high-octane horror movie, check out Ready or Not. Like I say, I went to the cinema to watch this and had a blast. So this is my pick for 2019. So there you go, guys. Those are my picks for the 2010s. Let me know what you think of my list. Do you like my choices? If not, feel free to let me know what movies you would have picked for this decade. Always interesting to hear which ones you would go for. And that brings us to the end of this series, the end of looking through these decades of horror. Really enjoyed doing this. I've enjoyed looking through all the different movies from different times. So yeah, I'll have to come back and do something similar to this in the future. So thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for more videos.